Well, spring fishing season is almost here, but you sure would not know it by looking at the weather. The icy grip of old man winter has his claws dug in. Winter is late this year and it's affected the fishing. All but the hardiest of anglers has had to stay indoors by the fireplace. That's about to change, and in the meantime, you and I can still be successful catching cold weather fish. We'll talk about that on this week's show. This is Fox Sports Outdoors.
It's time now for your weekly fishing reports and real-time outdoor news from the Southwest region. This is Fox Sports Outdoors Southwest.
Hi everybody, welcome to the show. So, how has all this cold weather lately affected the fishing? Well, it's put all the spawning activity behind this year. Normally by mid-March, we've got largemouth and smallmouth and spotted bass spawning all around our region, but not so much this year. The water temperatures are still too cold for that. It's going to happen in a few more weeks once we get some warmer weather. But in the meantime, there is a way that you can go out and catch some bass even with cold water and cold weather. You go to a lake that's got warm water. Power plant lakes around our region. They are magic this time of the year. Everything is sped up, everything is active when all the cold water lakes are not. We're going to talk about that on this week's show, and I'd like to welcome you in to deep East Texas, almost to the Texas-Louisiana border, to Brandy Branch Reservoir. It's a little 2,200 acre lake situated just south and west of Marshall, Texas. It's got a coal-fired power plant located right on its shores, and it artificially warms the water. We'll talk about exactly how that affects the fishing and how and where you can locate some this coming weekend. Also, we're giving you your weekly fishing reports from our expert team of insider reporters. It all comes your way in the next half hour. We're going to get the Bass Tracker Pro Team 175 launched into the lake. We'll be back to get it all started. First, here we go, back to the FSN studios with your weekend planner.
According to the Salooner tables, it looks like spring will begin with a good opportunity to catch fish this weekend. Overall, the best action looks to start Saturday around noon. Expect sunrise to take place at 7:30 in the morning with sunset happening at 7:39 p.m. And there's a new moon on Friday, so evenings will feature very little moonlight. We'll be right back with all of the current fishing reports from around the area. And I'll return with professional angler Randy Howell to answer your Ask the Pro question. Back in a bit.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Tracker Boats. It's more than just a boat, it's a tracker. By Costa Sunglasses, see what's out there. By Mercury Marine, official outboard of Fox Sports Outdoors. And by Lowrance Electronics. Find, navigate, dominate.
There's one, comes up. Good fish. All right, good one to get it started. Look at him in that clear water. There's a mouthful of rattle bait. Oh yeah, hey, look at here. Let's grab him by the jaw and show you what a good power plant bass looks like right there. All right, there's a great way to get it going. Back that fish goes. Why do we fish power plant lakes early in the spring like this, especially after such a cold winter? Here's why. The seasons are artificially accelerated, which means everything is rolled forward by about a month. Right now, we've got surface temperatures in this power plant lake in the upper 50s and low 60s, which is perfect pre-spawn and even spawning water, while in the cold water lakes right next door, the water temperature is still in the 40s right now, low 40s, some places upper 30s. So we've got about a 20-degree artificial warm-up. The power plant circulates this warm water through the lake and it speeds everything up. So you have to just readjust your mind that it's later in the year than it actually is when you're fishing a power plant. So in my mind right now, I'm fishing the pre-spawn. So I'm going to be fishing moving baits, baits that the fish will chase down when they're aggressively feeding. That's the way you catch them early in the spring like we have right now, especially after the cold winter that we've just been through. So you can practice on the power plant lakes, Then when the cold water lakes begin to warm up, you go and repeat that same pattern a month later. It's really a fun deal. Talk more about it. Talk about some of the gear and the techniques of how to find them in a power plant lake. Right now, let's get you started with some fishing and lake reports. First up this week is Louisiana.
Hey friends, Cajun Phil here with your Fox Louisiana fishing report. I tell you what, old Captain Kev was out there doing some chunking today. A little overcast, calm. Finally had a couple of days of warm. He's out there throwing right now. He said they've already got their limit of redfish going along the shoreline. They're using a poppet cork and a plastic, and they're catching lots of redfish right now. Also talked to Captain Bill Lake. Captain Bill Lake guides down around Houma, Louisiana. And Captain Bill Lake says, I'll tell you what, Cajun, he said, I'm kind of alternating right now. He said, I'm kind of having a good time before we get really hectic and really busy. He said, but as far as speckled trout, he said, I can catch a limit just about each and every day if somebody wants to come down to Houma and go speckled trout fish. Right now, Captain Bill's down there catching sac-a-lait, as he calls them, big old white perch. He's catching them on a little flea fly. And he's also catching some really nice bass on a small spinnerbait. That's down around Houma, Louisiana. As far as other areas in the state, talk to several hour anglers down around Baton Rouge. They're going to the Atchafalaya Basin. They're catching big old bass on spinnerbaits over there. They're throwing 3/4 ounce spinnerbaits, double blade, 1 gold, 1 silver, willow leaf, chartreuse skirt. Keep that in mind if you go down around the Atchafalaya Basin. As far as the white perch goes, I cannot tell you where I'm not hearing stores of white perch. Keep in mind, the best lure seems to be the little tinies in black and chartreuse tail, or also black and pink's been doing really good. Some with a spinner, some without a spinner. Most of them are throwing it under poppet cork, working it real slow. Tell you what, friends, right now, fishing's great here in Louisiana. Come on down and join us.
There's another one coming up. Good one. Another good fish. Another mouthful of rattlebait. All right, boy, they are fat, 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 fat fish. Look at this. Welcome back, everybody. We're talking power plant lake bass fishing today. And show you the baits later. There is one more good chunk for you. I want you to look at how beautiful and healthy that fish is. Florida strain largemouth bass is what they stock here in these power plant lakes. In Texas, they have a small mouth, a big fat body. That's probably a male moving up there, getting ready to spawn. Again, they're spawning a lot earlier. Most of these lakes are really old, 50, 60 years old, even older in some cases across the South and Southwest. What that means is a couple of things. Number one, they're silted in. All the bottom contour is basically gone. You just have big bowls and big flat bottom lakes in a lot of cases. Not a lot of well-defined creek channels, drop-offs, points, ledges, nothing like that. So the bass have to get on the available cover. What's the cover? As you see around me, not a lot of standing timber. What does that leave? It leaves vegetation, all kinds from shallow to deep. Now, I want to show you something. I'm fishing hydrilla beds out here right now. That fish was on the outside of a big hydrilla bed, and I want to show you that on my Lowrance Elite 7 Chirp sonar. On the left-hand side of your screen is the traditional 2D. The right side is the downscan 3D-like image. But that Chirp sonar on the left side, you can see that all of this grass under here, you can see almost the individual blades of grass, and you can occasionally see a fish. It's a target separation is what this Chirp sonar is all about, and it really shines in grass because it separates the blades and the fish from each other, and you can really get a clear picture of those. But that's what you want to fish in many of these power plant lakes, is look at the aquatic vegetation and try to figure out whether they're shallow, lily pads and those kinds of things, are deep around hydrilla and milfoil like they are right here. Hey, let's get you some more fishing and lake reports for this week. Let's go to Oklahoma.
Hey, the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife says right now is the best time to catch a trophy bass here in the state. History proves it. 15 of the top 20 largemouth bass records in Oklahoma were caught during the month of March. Of the remaining 5, 3 of those were caught the last couple of days of February. All those top 20 fish are over 13 pounds. Most recently are double-digit new lake records from Kanawha and Lake Murray. At Kanawha, Ryan Wasser of Pocasset, Oklahoma, caught that back in February. He actually had a new lake record 10.6 pounder, but also a nearly 9 pounder on the same outing. He was fishing umbrella rigs, rigged with high-tech swim baits, and fishing in about 13 foot of water. Now the Lake Murray record was caught by Charles Jewell of Hilton, Oklahoma. That fish weighed 12.3 pounds, and he was fishing a KVD caffeine shad rigged on a swim bait jig head and caught that fish in about 5 foot of water. He said there's some rocks there. He was tapping that rock with that jig head as he came across there, fishing it extremely slow. That big old fish came up and ate it. You might also remember that Dale Miller caught the new state record bass of nearly 15 pounds about 2 years ago, also in March on the Gene Rue Swede Swimmer. That Swede Swimmer also has accounted for lake records on Grand and also Uchi Lake. Now the biologists say it's no coincidence that March produces the big fish like it does. He said the females are really starting to store up the fat in advance of the spawn to get ready for the spawning season. And they do like to take opportunities to eat the bigger baits because it takes less effort, it lasts longer, helps them generate some more storage. Great time of year to catch a big fish in Oklahoma, but one thing about it, you can't catch it if you don't go.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Right stuff, low price, every day. Buy Lose, setting a new standard of fishing performance. Feel the difference. By Gene LaRue and Bobby Garland Lures. With our baits, a good day of fishing is in the bag. And by Stren Fishing Lines, the standard of dependability.
Oh, got it. Good fish. Fatty. Look how fat the belly is on that fish. Don't hurt me. All right, there we go. Look at that. Look at the fat belly. Pre-spawn fish, and just like we talked about, it's been so cold, and these fish are just now coming out of that deeper water, moving up on these grass beds. Now, what I'm doing is trying to swim something across the top of the grass beds. I'm gonna need to use the pliers on him. Right now I'm using a rattle bait, lipless rattle and crankbait, and just swimming it across the top of that grass. I'm trying to hold the boat in about 15 feet of water, something like that. And I'm trying to swim this bait up in something like 8 feet. There we go. All right. There's you a nice Brandy Branch bass, and hey, you can do this in a lot of power plant lakes across the entire southeast and southwest. That one's gonna go back and get the spawn. All right, and let me mention something else too. Red's always a great color. Red and chartreuse in the springtime are two of my favorite colors. That's kind of a bright orangish red. Give you a little closer shot at the baits. So I've caught them on soft plastic jerk baits, caught them on crankbaits across the top, and I've caught some on a big swim bait as well. So there are a lot of ways to catch them. Remember, go to your active baits, your spinner baits, crankbaits, anything that's moving. These fish will be a lot more aggressive in this kind of water. The only thing you have to identify is where on these grass beds, where on the vegetation are the fish. So we've caught a couple up shallow by the weeds that are right along the shoreline. You can see those weeds up there, but they were smaller fish. So what we did was backed out here and found where the hydrilla beds fall off into deeper water. Right on that edge from about 8 feet down to about 12 is right where the fish seem to be hanging. But you can figure it out on your power plant lake in the area that you live just as well. More fishing report time from your local insider reporters.
Hi folks, this week's Lone Star Lakes is brought to you by the 11th annual Legend of Lake Fork Big Bass Tournament, May 15, 16, and 17. Now with 8 places paid each hour, each day, and 5 legend boats up for grabs, all models and makes of boats are welcome to the tournament. This week we're here at the Sabine River just outside Logansport, where we're here for the White Bass Run. These bass will be running up and down this river looking for places to spawn, and you can catch them with a variety of baits including quarter-ounce rattle traps, road runners, and rooster tails. All you need is light spinning gear, and you can load up on a limit of those sand bass. Now, down at Falcon in South Texas, the largemouth bass fishermen are catching the big sows up in the shallows as they look for spawning locations. Be sure and throw those Texas rigs, lizards, and worms up in that shallow water for the big falcon bass. That's been this week's Lone Star Lakes, brought to you by the 11th annual Legend of Lake Fork Big Bass Tournament. Now let's go out to Mr. Bill Olson. He's on the coast.
Hi folks, this week's report is brought to you by Port Aransas on Mustang Island, the fishing capital of Texas, where anglers enjoy pristine bays, estuaries, 18 miles of surf, and the deep blue waters of the Gulf of Mexico. Plus, the local restaurants will even cook your catch come sundown. Come fish and play Texas Island style. For more information, visit PortAransas.org. Well, interesting events will occur this week that will impact our coastal fishing, along with similar events that will impact it through the year. First, spring officially arrives Friday, March 20th, and along with it, there'll be the first of 6 super moons for 2015. As most know, super moons increase our tides, putting water into the back lake areas, and typically scatters fish. Weather forecasts indicate more spring-like weather ahead, so look for water temperatures to be on the rise. At Port Isabel, look for longbar to turn on with some good quality fish. In Galveston Bay, the Black Drum Run should start to gather some momentum. Look around the jetties and the Texas City Dike. Also, sheep's head action will increase around the jetties all along the Texas coast. There's fresh water moving down upper coast rivers, so look for this runoff to push speckled trout toward middle and lower bay areas. With the super moons, higher tides, and shallow water, the first to warm, look for the back lakes from Port Aransas to Port O'Connor to see trout and redfish activity increasing. In these areas, DOA's freshwater paddle-tail shad is a good option on the coast. Rig it with a 1/8 ounce jig head. Now, live shrimp remains a preferred live bait. Around the jetties, freeline the shrimp, and in mid-bay areas, fish them under a rattling float. The mid-bay areas that will produce are around the mud shell or mudgrass areas. This weekend, Saturday, has a double tide schedule of 2 high and 2 low tides. This Sunday is a 3-tide day with 2 high tides and just 1 low. I'm Bill Olson, and I'll see you on the coast.
Just pitched up there and caught it right out from under that bush. That just shows you that there's more than one size fish in here. And even though we've had some really, really cold weather and a lot of really cold water, Power Plant Lake, you can catch some bass right up next to the shoreline. All right, switched over to a soft plastic jerkbait right there. Again, show you all the gear at the end of the show. There's a nice little chunky 2.5 pound toad right there. Okay, before we go to a quick commercial break right here, I want to mention you need to go to our Twitter feed and follow us, because we're going to be giving away some great fishing gear. We're going to be giving away a custom autographed jersey like the ones that I wear here on the television show. Going to be giving away some lures, some line, all kinds of gear. And the only way you can win is to go to our Twitter feed at the Twitter address you see there, at @Fox_Outdoors, and click the follow link. And it's worth it, even if you're not or don't have an account with Twitter. It's worth signing up for a free account just so you can follow our page, get the very latest fishing news that you never see here on the show, and win some great gear as well.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Exide AGM Marine Batteries. Starts like new, stays like new longer. By Motor Guide Trolling Motors. Introducing the XI5 for ultimate boat control. By Fort Worth Nissan. Fox Sports Outdoors is powered by Fort Worth Nissan. And by Nitro Performance Fishing Boats. Champions aren't born, they're made.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time for your Ask the Pro question. This week, Dion wants to know, are bass more active before, during, or after a cold front? We asked 2014 Bassmaster Classic champion Randy Howell for the answer.
Bass are always more active right before a cold front, really right before any kind of front. Anytime the barometric pressure changes in the atmosphere because of a front, they get active, just like all the wildlife. You know, when you watch the squirrels and the cows feeding, you know, my dad always said if the cows are feeding when you ride by the pasture, you know, the bass will be biting, and that's true a lot of times. So before front's always the best.
Thanks, Randy. If you have a question for one of the anglers, visit our website, follow the Ask the Pro link on the right side of the page, and let us know. Now, one of our viewers is about to win a new pair of sunglasses on the Costa Catch of the Week.
Hey, this week's winner in the Costa Catch of the Week contest is Corey Jones of Houston, Texas. He's shown with a 28-inch speckled trout he caught out of West Matagorda Bay down on the Texas Gulf Coast. If you would like to be our next winner in the Costa Catch of the Week contest, just go to our website at foxsportsoutdoors.com. On the right-hand side of that front page is the Costa Catch of the Week area. Click in that box, follow the instructions, and you could be our next winner of a brand new pair of Costa sunglasses. And if you'd like to take a look at all of the Costa frame and lens styles, you can do that at their website. Just go back to the front page of our website at foxsportsoutdoors.com, click on that Costa logo, and you can see them all there, including the frame style that I was wearing on this week's episode of the show called Caballito. Next up on the Academy Sports and Outdoors Right Stuff feature, it's the right gear to catch bass at your favorite power plant lake, and it begins with a good cranking rod. You need that to throw the lipless rattling crankbaits with. This is the Lew's David Fritz Speed Stick Cranking Series, a fantastic crankbait rod, a nice soft rod so that those treble hooks don't pull out of the fish's mouth. And then brand new on the market, it's the Lew's Custom Speed Stick Series. We threw a soft plastic jerkbait with this rod. It's the Topwater Special. The cool thing about these custom rods is that they make all kinds of rods for specialty types of fishing. They have a rod for almost every type of fishing that you want to do. This is a casting rod, and it's identifiable by the white color on the lower portion of the rod. Again, it's the Lew's Custom Speed Stick Series. Next up, let's show you some baits that'll catch them on these warm water power plant lakes, beginning at the top with a lipless rattling crankbait. That's a pretty large size. It's about 3 inches long. Red is always a great color in the springtime. Below that, you see a soft plastic jerkbait. That is a Gene LaRue Salt Flicker. And below that, you'll see the tried and true flipping and pitching bait. That is a Gene LaRue Biffle Bug. We caught some flipping and pitching around the shoreline on that. Also below that, a jerkbait. We'll catch them like crazy in the early part of the springtime. Each of us has a built-in inherent need to do things with our life that count for something, that matter. But on the other hand, we tend to fill up our daily schedule with lots of busyness, and a lot of those things that really don't matter at all. So a few years ago, I began to run my day and my schedule through a little filter that goes something like this. Does what I'm about to schedule or do matter in another 10 years? Or will it matter in another 50 years or 100 years? The answer to any of those questions is yes. Hey, it's well worth doing. The answer to all those questions is no. A lot of times I'll scratch it off my schedule. Each week at this point in the show, we try to give you a little personal insight that may or may not have anything to do with fishing, but might count for something in your personal life. And of course, everybody gets the choice to accept it or kick it out. Everybody gets to choose. Hey, thanks for joining us for this week's episode from the warm water power plant lake on the Texas-Louisiana border called Brandy Branch Reservoir. But don't forget that the tips and techniques that we passed along this week will work at your favorite hot water lake near you. We'll be on next Thursday evening at the special time of 5:30 p.m. with the repeat airing Saturday morning at 7:30. From Brandy Branch Reservoir in Deep East Texas, until next week, I'm Barry Stokes saying be safe, have fun. Bye-bye, y'all.